Hi everyone, I'm Sham Novak. And you know what's interesting? Questions about breakfast are some of the most common ones I get during consultations. And they come from people of completely different ages and lifestyles. Some people force themselves to eat oatmeal at 7 a.m. for years because that's what you're supposed to do. Others feel guilty because they simply can't make themselves eat in the morning. And some genuinely don't understand why, despite having a healthy breakfast, their weight just won't go down. Let's sort this out calmly. No extremes, no fear tactics, I promise. No diets, no miracle methods. Just what actually works in real life for real people. Let's start with the most deceptive one. Imagine this. You open your cabinet and take out a box labeled Fitness Breakfast or High in Fiber. The packaging shows happy, athletic people, wheat stalks, maybe even someone in a yoga pose. You pour it into a bowl, add milk, and feel like a champion of healthy living. Now flip the box over and read the ingredient list. Do you see the line that says carbohydrates, including sugars? It might say 15-20 grams, sometimes even 25 grams per serving. That's 4 to 5 teaspoons of sugar in one serving of healthy cereal. What happens physiologically? You eat this breakfast and your body gets a sharp spike of glucose in the bloodstream. The pancreas responds with a strong release of insulin. Blood sugar is quickly processed, glucose levels drop, and within an hour to an hour and a half, a wave of hunger hits you. Not just mild appetite, a strong urge to eat something again, preferably something sweet. I usually explain this to patients with a simple example. Imagine trying to heat a stove by throwing paper into it instead of firewood. A bright flash, a burst of heat, and a minute later, it's cold again. That's exactly how fast carbohydrates with added sugar work. You get energy, but it disappears before it can truly help. Now here's the important part. Added sugar hides under many different names: glucose syrup, fructose syrup, maltodextrin, dextrose, fruit juice concentrate, invert syrup. These are all variations of the same thing. Manufacturers know that the word sugar scares buyers, so they replace it with something that sounds less alarming. But the reality doesn't change. So you eat a healthy granola bar, thinking it's a great snack. In reality, it's basically a candy bar, just with oats inside. Similar calories, sometimes even more sugar, and almost no satiety. Half an hour later, you're back at the fridge. Sweet yogurts are another story entirely. Light, low fat, with fruit pieces. Sounds diet-friendly, right? Check the ingredients. Sugar or syrup is usually listed second or third. One small cup of flavored yogurt can contain as much sugar as 2 to 3 spoonfuls of jam, and liquid or semi-liquid food fills you up far less than solid food. If you like yogurt, choose plain, unsweetened versions. Yes, they're tangy, but you can add berries, fruit pieces, or a few nuts yourself, and then you know exactly what and how much you added. Don't rely on the manufacturer, who may generously add sugar just to make it taste better. Coffee drinks are an entire universe of hidden calories: a vanilla syrup latte, a caramel cappuccino, a hazelnut latte. That's not coffee, that's dessert in a cup. One of those drinks can contain 250, 300 calories and as much sugar as a milk chocolate bar. And the worst part? 20 minutes later, you're hungry again. Quick takeaway: always read labels, even if the front of the package says healthy, fitness, or natural. The less added sugar in your breakfast, the longer you'll stay full, and the lower the chance you'll end up snacking before lunch. Now, I'm going to say something that may surprise you. Breakfast is not mandatory. Yes, I'm serious. If you don't have an appetite in the morning, don't force yourself. There is no biological law that says you must eat within the first hour after waking up. So where did the idea of mandatory breakfast come from? Largely, it's a social construct. 3 meals a day developed not because of physiology, but because of lifestyle patterns. Work shifts, school schedules, family traditions. These shaped eating patterns far more than biology ever did. In different cultures and at different times in history, people ate very differently. Some had 2 meals a day, others spread their food out in small portions throughout the day. In my practice, I regularly see people forcing themselves to eat in the morning because they read somewhere that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. They feel nauseous, heavy, have absolutely no desire to chew anything, but they heroically push down oatmeal or a sandwich because that's the right thing to do. That's not healthcare. That's ignoring your body. If you're not hungry in the morning, listen to yourself. Maybe your body simply isn't ready for food yet. Maybe you had a substantial dinner the night before and still have enough energy. Maybe physiologically you just feel better eating later. That's normal. What matters isn't when you eat, What matters is what you eat and how much you consume overall during the day. If you skip breakfast but eat balanced meals later and get all the necessary nutrients, there's no problem. That said, there are situations where breakfast truly helps. First, if you experience morning heartburn or discomfort in the upper abdomen, it may be related to an empty stomach and mild acid reflux. A small, balanced breakfast can sometimes reduce these symptoms. But if heartburn happens regularly, that's a reason to see a doctor, not just to mask the symptom with food. Second, if by mid-morning you feel intense fatigue, trouble concentrating, or mental fog, it may signal that your body needs steady carbohydrates earlier in the day. A bowl of whole grain porridge with fruit can provide a stable energy supply and help you reach lunchtime in a productive state, not half asleep. Third, a long gap before your next meal. If you know lunch won't happen for 5 or 6 hours, a small morning snack can help prevent overeating later. It doesn't have to be a full breakfast. A piece of fruit, a handful of nuts, or a small portion of cottage cheese can be enough. Quick takeaway: breakfast is a tool to solve a specific need. Use it consciously, not out of obligation. If you don't want to eat in the morning and you feel fine, don't force it. A good breakfast isn't a perfectly styled, clean eating photo from social media. It's normal food with a proper balance of nutrients. The basic principle I use with patients is the balanced plate concept: protein, healthy fats, fiber, and slow carbohydrates. You don't need to weigh every gram or calculate percentages. Just keep that logic in mind when building your breakfast. Let's look at concrete examples. A good option: eggs with vegetables and a slice of whole grain bread. Eggs provide protein and fats. Vegetables provide fiber and micronutrients. Whole grain bread provides slow carbohydrates. This combination keeps you full much longer than sugary cereal or flavored yogurt. Another option: oatmeal made from whole rolled oats. Not instant, not flavored packets. Real oats that cook for 5 to 7 minutes. Add berries or fruit, a handful of nuts, or a spoonful of plain yogurt. It's filling, satisfying, and provides steady energy for several hours. Cottage cheese with fruit and nuts is another excellent choice. Protein from the cottage cheese, fiber from the fruit, healthy fats from the nuts. A simple combination that covers everything you need. Now let's address eggs specifically, because this is one of the most common questions I hear. What about cholesterol? Can you really eat eggs every day? Modern research shows that if you don't have diagnosed lipid metabolism disorders, eggs as part of a varied diet are a perfectly reasonable food choice. Dietary cholesterol affects blood cholesterol levels far less than we used to think. A much greater impact comes from saturated fats, trans fats, and an excess of simple carbohydrates. If your cholesterol is elevated, that's a reason to discuss your specific situation with your doctor. It may make sense to get a full lipid panel, review your overall diet and lifestyle, but eliminating eggs on your own, just in case, is unnecessary caution that isn't supported by solid evidence. Quick takeaway: breakfast should be filling and balanced, not tiny and overly light. A small, light breakfast often leads to overeating later in the evening. You'll end up eating everything you didn't eat in the morning and more. Write in the comments what you usually have for breakfast. Is there something you find hard to give up, even though you know it might be better to? I'm genuinely interested in your experience. It helps me make future videos more useful specifically for you. Be honest. There are no right or wrong answers here. Some morning rituals are so deeply rooted in popular culture that people follow them automatically, without ever questioning whether they actually make sense. Myth number 1: a glass of lemon water boosts metabolism and flushes bile. Lemon water is simply water with lemon. A pleasant, refreshing drink with a slightly sour taste, nothing more. Bile is released in response to fats entering the small intestine, not in response to water. There is no physiological detox effect or digestive activation from citrus water. Your liver and kidneys handle detoxification perfectly well on their own. They don't need help from lemon juice. If you enjoy lemon water, drink it. But don't expect miracles, and don't force yourself if you don't like it. There's absolutely no obligation. Myth number 2: coffee on an empty stomach damages your stomach and leaches calcium from your bones. Current research suggests that moderate coffee consumption, a few cups per day, without excessive additives, does not harm a healthy person. In fact, for some people, coffee even helps with regular bowel movements. Yes, that's a medical fact, not a joke. Restrictions are individual. If you're prone to high blood pressure, rapid heartbeat, or anxiety, it's worth discussing your optimal caffeine intake with your doctor. But for a healthy person, morning coffee is not contraindicated. As for calcium, yes, caffeine slightly increases calcium excretion in urine, but the effect is so small that it's easily offset by a varied diet. If you consume enough dairy, leafy greens, and nuts, there's nothing to worry about. Myth number 3. Freshly squeezed juice is a healthy substitute for whole fruit. No, when you juice fruit, you remove most of the fiber, the very component that slows sugar absorption and promotes fullness. What remains is a concentrated sweet drink. It takes 3 to 4 oranges to make 1 glass of orange juice. You would never sit down and eat 4 whole oranges at once. That's simply a lot of food. But you can drink a glass of juice in a couple of minutes. You get the same dose of sugar, but without the fiber and without the satiety. If you want the benefits of fruit, eat it whole. The fiber stays intact, you feel full longer, and the total calorie intake is lower. Quick takeaway: healthy rituals are fine, but it's important to understand how they actually work, so you don't replace real nutrition with attractive but ineffective habits. In clinical practice, I often see people whose breakfast consists almost entirely of saturated fats: butter, bacon, sausage, several eggs, maybe some high-fat cheese on top. Each of these foods individually is not a catastrophe, but when they all end up on the same plate at the same time, it becomes a significant burden on the cardiovascular system, especially if there's a predisposition to high cholesterol or a family history of heart disease. Sausages and processed meats are a separate issue. Many people view them as high-protein foods. In reality, they contain far less protein than people assume, and plenty of fat, plus salt, preservatives, and sometimes unclear ingredients. If you want a protein-rich breakfast, eggs, cottage cheese, or fish are far more transparent choices. You know exactly what you're eating, and you get complete protein without unnecessary additives. Quick takeaway: if your cholesterol is normal and you're otherwise healthy, a moderate amount of fat at breakfast is not a problem. If there are concerns about your lipid profile, that's a conversation with your doctor. Not a reason to randomly eliminate foods on your own. Breakfast is the most stable meal in most people's lives. That's both a problem and an opportunity. If you've been eating the same thing since childhood, a sausage sandwich, sweet porridge, fried eggs with bread, that's not unusual. It's normal. Breakfast habits form very early and often last for decades. Here's the good news: that's exactly why breakfast is the easiest place to start making changes. You don't need to overhaul your entire diet. You don't need to go on a strict diet or give up your favorite foods forever. Start by gradually replacing individual elements. Instead of instant packaged porridge, choose whole grains that need cooking. Instead of sweet-flavored yogurt, choose plain yogurt and add your own berries. Instead of juice, eat whole fruit. Instead of processed sausage, try a slice of baked chicken or turkey. Small shifts that your body barely notices, but that add up to a completely different result over time. Quick takeaway: you don't need a revolution. One improved breakfast, repeated thousands of times over a year, makes a real difference. Breakfast is not a magic weight loss pill, and it's not a sacred ritual without which your health collapses. It's simply a meal. And like any meal, it can either support your goals or quietly work against them, depending on what's on your plate. I hope this video helped you look at your morning routine in a new way, without fear, without unnecessary restrictions, without fanaticism, and without guilt. If you haven't written in the comments about your breakfast yet, do it now. I'm genuinely interested, and it helps make future videos more helpful. If you found this video useful, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. Here you'll find evidence-based medicine only, no panic, and no miracle cures.